How did you end up choosing the initial college you went to? Were there a lot of colleges recruiting you?
No, zero. I, I went to Long Beach State and out of high school because I played so many positions. I think I played around 5 or 6 positions. I played nose guard. I was a linebacker. I was fullback. I was the kicker, and I was like the fourth string tight end. Did I say linebacker already? Yeah. So I was
Yes.
linebacker, nose guard, tight end, fullback, and kicker. That was my 5 positions that I played in high school. So, I really wasn't a standout athlete, anything like that in high school, but because I played so many positions, it gave me a great sense of the game from every aspect. I think from running to tackling to kicking the ball. We had the school I went to was a small school, Lincoln. We only had about 25 players, and so we were basically going both ways, starting both defense and offense. But prior to that, I had grown up being a running back my entire life. That's the only position I had played from Pop Warner until I got to high school. And Lincoln had two backs that were already starting, so I couldn't, break it, get on the field with those two guys there. So, you just kind of find a way to get onto the field. I did that, and I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed, playing the game and trying to make a difference, but not getting credit for it. That was fun. But then when it was time to find a school, it kind of counted against me because I didn't have a position. But then Long Beach State came around, and my brother was at Long Beach State, and they had just gotten George Allen as their coach, and it just worked out where I think my brother had mentioned to them that there was a kid in San Diego that they should look at, and they didn't know we were brothers because my brother's last name is Webb, and George Allen called and he liked what he saw. He said, "Hey, just come here, and we can't promise you anything, but we'll promise you if you work hard, we'll try hard to try to take care of you." And I guess that meant like giving you a scholarship. So at the time it was Long Beach State. The other school that was in the picture was I think Utah State, but again, and then I think Pacific or Cal State Fullerton. There was no real big schools that were involved in recruiting me, but those schools were my only options.
I see that you redshirted your freshman year, but you were still at practices. What was Coach Allen like?
Man, I think that was really it was phenomenal. If you know George Allen, he's a defensive-minded coach, and he spent most of his time on that side of the ball. So when I redshirted, all I was doing was scout team stuff, and that's really where I got back my running back position, where I was doing scout team, and man, he wanted the scout team offense to be as good as a starting offense because he thought that was the way you can prepare your starting defense. And man, he fell in love with me, man. He even gave me a nickname. He called me Secretariat. And so when I'm playing for him and his advice and having a coach that's obviously a Hall of Fame coach, not at the time, but obviously he was legendary at the time, and so getting the advice from him on the way he ran the special teams, the way he ran the scout team, the way he ran the meetings and everything, that was the first taste of a professional team that I had experienced, and his wisdom and knowledge. And he was real big on the belief of playing together. He'd have signs when you walk into our building, and it would say togetherness. 53 men playing together, you can't lose. And so you learn some lessons from him. But I got a chance to sort of work with him very closely because of the fact that, again, he wanted the offense, our scout team offense, to be extremely good against the defense. And I remember, there's times on a Thursday where the defense is trying to get off the field, but I'm making them repeat the play because I'm running so hard. And they're getting upset, telling me to slow down, stop running so hard. But George Allen respected that, and that's what, he kind of taught me how to practice and play at a certain level, at all the time. Yeah, I mean, I have a profound respect for George. Learned a lot from him, and obviously, he passed away the year after my redshirt freshman year. But I try to take sort of the coaching from him and try to use that when I went to Georgia and obviously when I went into the pros.
When they disbanded the program, Long Beach, I mean, were there a lot of schools after you then, or was it just Georgia?
There were three schools that I can remember so the first school that had contacted me was I think it was Hawaii. Yeah, Hawaii was the first school. UCLA contacted me, but they weren't serious. They had a lot of backs that they were trying to give scholarships to. They invited me to come down on an unofficial visit, and I did that. And I was excited about UCLA. I loved UCLA. I thought I was going there. You know, as a kid growing up in Southern California, you know, the big schools were USC, UCLA, in Southern Cal. So I love that blue, love the colors, and I was thinking, man, UCLA, that'd be perfect. But they weren't committed, and so you know, they never offered me ship. And so then I'm sitting there trying to think, well, should I stay at Long Beach State? Should I go to UCLA, or should I go to Hawaii? I didn't really want to go to Hawaii. I just didn't. But then when I was kind of thinking about what I should do, I get a call in my room from a guy named Bob Pittard from the University of Georgia. He just left a message saying, hey, give me a call. We'd like to bring you down for a visit. And so I did. I heard that phone call. I was shocked. I was shocked because I didn't know much about Georgia at the time. I knew they were a big program, but I didn't know that much about them. So I did some research, and you know, I was telling people about the call, and they were like, "Man, Georgia called you?" So everybody was surprised, even more so than me. And then they sent me like the media guide, so I looked at the players they've had in the past and the bowl games they went to, what conference he was in. So it was a no-brainer. I said, I can go. So I went there on a visit, and I fell in love with the place. I had never seen anything like it. And so when I was going back to the airport to get back on the plane, they pulled me off the shuttle bus, and they offered me a scholarship. And so I accepted immediately. And I was a little nervous because West Coast kid going to Georgia, hadn't really left the West, and was a little concerned about that. But I said if I didn't like it, I could always go back home. So I took a chance to stay there, man. It was it was exciting. It was exciting taking a chance to go to a place and not really knowing what to expect, man. I just felt like at that time I was 18. I think I was 18 or 19 years old at the time. And so I just felt like that was just good for my development. Just go somewhere. If you don't like it, you can always come back home. That's kind of how I thought.
So you go there, you're backing up Garrison Hurst, and the next year you're a starter, you put up some big stats, and then you get hurt your senior year. Did you think when you got hurt that your chances to play in the NFL were kind of over?
I did. I thought there was no way I was going to play because I think that time my senior, I missed. I think I played in the first 2 or 3 games, and I think I missed 6 games. I don't know if it was 6, probably about 4. I missed a substantial amount of games in between, and during that time, you know, I hadn't had a great college career, and things weren't looking good. And so I remember sitting up in the stands at one of our home games and watching the team, and I just had a moment to reflect on my career. And I thought about it I was just thinking about like, wow, like there's a good chance that I might not ever get a chance to play for Georgia. Not that I wouldn't come back from injury, but even if I came back from injury, there was no guarantee that I was going to play because Hines Ward was our running back at the time, and he was playing well. So I didn't think I was going to be able to get back on the field once I got back healthy. So yeah, it crossed my mind, and I had a moment to think about it. And really, you sit there and you say, "Wow, like if I ever get a chance to play again, I've got to play this game differently." And it wasn't to make it to the pros. It was I wanted to finish my college career where I was proud, where I can say, you know what, I can look back and say I ended my career on a great note. And that was my only goal at that point because I felt the NFL was gone. I didn't think there was going to be any chance I could play in the National Football League. So I just wanted to try to do it for myself, to just play the game and leave on a great note. And it gave me some motivation. It gave me some motivation to when I got back, I just gave it my all. Like I didn't care. I just did and played the game as if I was never going to play the game again. And that was kind of my mentality for the last 4 games when I did return. The last 2 games I returned, I played fullback in 2 of those games, and Hines was a halfback. And I guess the coaches saw something different in me, and before the game we were about to play Auburn, they were undefeated at the time, and my coach pulls me into the room. He says, "Hey, we saw we've been seeing something different from you, and we like what we see. So we're going to put you back at the starting tailback." And this is I got 2 more games to play, Auburn and Georgia Tech, and I think I probably all around was probably the best 2 games that I had in my college career. Those last 2 games. Now I don't know if those 2 games got me drafted, but I think they got me into the blue-gray game, which was important, which kept my college career and kept my football career alive. And obviously, the draft comes and I get drafted by Denver. So that was kind of, I had really mentally had felt like the pro game. I didn't think I was going to play. I really didn't.
I read somewhere that Ray Goff wouldn't give the scouts your film from college. Was that true? And was there a reason for that?
Yeah, at the time, Ray and I, we had a difficult relationship, man. It was not a relationship at that time that I would have loved to have had with my head coach. And for whatever reason, whether he was a young coach, I was a young player, we just butted heads. It was like oil and water. We just did not get along. And some scouts told me some things that he had said about me. He was attacking my character. I wasn't tough. I had heard stories about him withholding tape. I'd heard all that stuff from scouts. I thought it wasn't stuff that I was making. This is things that I was hearing from scouts. So I was upset. So that was not. I at the time I couldn't understand why a coach would do that. You would think a coach would try to promote you to the pros so that the program looks good, so he looks good. But it was a nasty. We had a nasty relationship in college. But I would say this, and it's been a long time, and Ray and I have spoken a number of times, and we're actually pretty good friends now. We talk a lot on the phone, and he'll be there in Canton, man. So we've had a chance to talk and understand what happened then and why it happened, and it was on my heart. I had reached out to him about it, so I had reached out to him just to kind of let him know that my heart was heavy with what happened, and I didn't feel right carrying that, and I'd already forgotten about it really, and then people would bring it up, and I say, you know what, I don't feel the same way about Ray. That was years ago. I'll tell you how I felt then, but I can also tell you how I feel now about him, and I don't feel the same way. And I actually thanked him. I said, I didn't think about it at the time, but sometimes when somebody's putting in your life like that and they're doing things that at the end makes you better, like being hard on you, you may not accept it at the time because you don't like it. You think it's being hard, but I believe in God. I believe there's a purpose in anything, and I believe when someone does something, it's all for a reason. It's all to make the character. To build character, to make you into the person that you are. So, we've gotten past that. But the college was, from that standpoint was difficult.
Did you have any idea that your Broncos were going to draft you, or was that a surprise to you?
I had no idea. I had never heard of the Broncos coming to a pro day or anything, or at least they may have come, but they certainly didn't contact me or I didn't hear from any agent or anybody saying they had an interest or anything. I don't remember doing an interview for the Broncos or anything. The 2 teams that I had thought that showed, at least they showed the most interest in me was the Browns and the Cowboys. And so that was the 2 teams that I'd looked at like, okay, maybe one of these teams is going to draft me. I was hoping the Cowboys drafted me, but I think they drafted Sherman Williams. I think he went in the 2nd round. But it wasn't a lot of pro teams who had showed interest.
So how do you go from a 6-string tailback going into training camp to starting the first game for the Broncos? That'd be unbelievable.
I know. What's even more unbelievable is every place I've been, I've had the same route. When I went to Long Beach State, I was bottom of the depth charts. I had to fight my way to the top, and I ended up starting my redshirt freshman year, as you know. I go to Georgia. I get there. I'm probably 6th or 7th on the depth chart. come training camp, I'm behind Garrison, and then I start my junior year. So I don't know. It became this thing where I get to camp, and I've always loved playing running back. I think I was a natural tailback. Part of it, I think, but I think the other part was the mental part. Sometimes, like you feel confident in your abilities, but you don't know, and sometimes you get challenged with your confidence level. And I think sometimes along the line I had lost that. But when I got to Denver, remember I told you that when I approached football a different way now. Like I saw it where I was going to play this game as if it was the last time playing it. But I also realized when I got to Denver too, the things that like in Georgia where we changed the entire offense my senior year, or was it my junior? I think it was my junior year. We changed the offense from a running game into a passing game, and I was catching the ball out of the backfield more than I was running it. And so I had to pick up the blitz. I had to catch the ball in the backfield. It became, it helped me to become a more well-rounded back. And I think that when I got to Denver suited me well, where I can do it all. We played the West Coast system, so I had to block, I had to catch, I had to run, and I had to pick up, I had to be able to look out there and see what the coverages are, the fronts. And I just seemed that I thought I had a bit of an advantage. And I thought, like, as far as the heart stuff, I'm like, listen, I know I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and I just did whatever I had to do. And and so when I got my chance, which was to run down on the kickoff and tackle somebody, I felt like that was, you do that and you can get, ultimately if you show that you're willing to do anything, they'll give you a chance at what you really want to do. And that's kind of what my kind of approach. And it worked. It worked.
Did it help having a young coach in Mike Shanahan where basically he had nothing invested in the other players in the team who were already there because he wasn't there before?
Absolutely. Timing was everything on this one. I can't say that if I had gone to a team that had an established coach and, and staff and running back that I would have gotten that shot. So, yeah, for Mike to come in and to have this sort of open competition and not just peg one guy as his starter, hell yeah, that helped. And so, he was looking to build the team, and he didn't have a lot of guys that, at that time that was already set. A few guys, but not enough. And so it obviously gave me a chance to sort of work my way up. And I just like this approach. I mean, it's like Seattle does that. They don't care whether you were a free agent, a low round draft pick, or first round draft pick. They're going to play the best person, and that's all anybody can ask for. And that's why I respect Mike for that, and Kubiak, and they nurtured an environment that allowed us to compete, and the best player won. And that's all anybody can ask.
So you rush for 1,100 yards and 1,500 yards, and then you go for 1,700 yards, and you guys make the Super Bowl against the Packers, where you were a heavy underdog. What was that game like?
The game itself was, going into the game, like you said, heavy underdog. The history, Brett Favre coming in, Reggie White, NFC 13 straight wins, and here we are, a team that no one gave a chance to. But we felt differently. We felt like we were built a little bit more like an NFC team, and we had gone through enough adversity where we didn't think that anybody could beat us if we played our game. So, that year we played Pittsburgh, Kansas City, in Pittsburgh. And we felt like if we can win in these two places, which are the toughest venues to play in, then, you can play anybody on a neutral field. We like our chances. So the game was, going into the game, we felt confident. And I knew with me, what I knew for a fact was that the game hinged on my performance. And normally that's a lot of pressure for somebody, but but I was prepared and I was excited about the opportunity, and I felt comfortable where the game plan had runs in it where we were going to run the ball 40 times. And so that told me a lot. And when the coaching staff or players put together a game plan and it involves you that much, man, as a competitor, as somebody who wants to be able to control the outcome of a game, you can't ask for anything better than that. And so that night before the game, man, I slept like a baby. And people think that it was like, man, weren't you nervous? I'm like, yeah, but I said, but I was prepared and I was more excited than anything. And I'd much rather go to sleep knowing we're going to run the ball 40 times than waking up or going to bed knowing we're going to throw it 50 times a game. That would have been unsettling. So, because I wouldn't have been able to affect the game like I wanted to. So we go to that game, and it starts off, we get down 7-0 quickly. But it was no one panicked. Everybody just looked around and said, okay, they scored, we got to go score. And we did that. And so we knew it was going to be a tough game. It was not going to be an easy game by any means, but we just felt like, if we don't screw this thing up, man, we're going to win this game. And so, you go through, and then I got the migraine in the first quarter, which was not, that was devastating because I thought I had let everyone down. I thought I had let my teammates down, fans, myself, because I had to leave the game, and I was sick thinking about tomorrow's sort of headlines about Denver's losing this game, and me not being able to help out, and that hurt me, man. That hurt me, and so I tried to get back as fast as I could. I ended up coming back in the third quarter, and fortunately, I was able to come back when we were still, I think we were either tied or leading, and I fumbled the first snap from halftime, which was not good. But yeah, so no, it was a back and forth game, a very exciting game, and I just stayed focused, man. I was just trying not to think about the outcome, just trying to think about my job, what I had to do, my responsibilities, and try to play my role as best as I could. And I felt like if I did that, then we had a great chance of winning the game. And I just tried to stay in the moment and was able to do that. And then obviously at the end of the game, when the scoreboard goes down, you look at it, we're up 31-24 or 30.
Yes.
Yeah, 31-24. Yeah. Yeah. And so when that final thing, the thing that stands out to me a lot is John Mobley knocking down the pass that was intended for Mark Tremora. When Brett threw that ball and John knocked it down, I still replay that in my head a lot, because that was the culmination, that was the final, that was the period, that was the exclamation point on a season that we had fought our asses off, and to beat Green Bay and to upset this team like that, man, it was exciting. And I was exhausted, but I would always remember that final play.
I suffer from migraines. When you get a migraine, you have to throw up. You want to just sleep. And when you wake up, you're fine. How do you get a migraine and then come back 15 minutes later in a game?
David, let me tell you, man, because I had migraines when I think I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I've always had them. And I remember playing with migraines when I had no idea that I had a migraine, meaning that I was not diagnosed at the time. And I was so ashamed because I couldn't explain to anybody what was going on. And so if I was coming to you and say, hey, I can't see, I have a headache and this, it just didn't, it was weird. Like I felt guilty about telling somebody how I felt because I couldn't explain it. And I played in a couple of high school games with full-blown migraines with no medication whatsoever. And it was probably the most difficult thing that I'd ever had to do. So when this one came, and let me back up. So in college, I was diagnosed with migraines. We had medication, and so they would come every so often. I could take the medication. It would abort the headache portion, or at least it would numb it. It wouldn't make it as intense. So I played a few games like that in the pros. Tampa Bay game, same thing happened to me. Got hit in the head by Hardy Nickerson first quarter. I missed the second quarter, came back out and played again. So with that history, when I got the migraine in the Super Bowl, I knew there was a chance I can come back, but I didn't want to leave. So when I went into the locker room, thank God the halftime shows are super long, so it allowed the medication to kick in, and I knew I was going to be able to come back, and that was the hope, and that was I guess the saving grace was I knew I would come back. It was just a matter of when and what would happen to the game while I was away was what I was concerned about. But yeah, and when I got back, the migraine was, my vision was clear. It was even more clear. But the headache was sort of like and you get them, so you know what I'm talking about. It's not
Right.
a full-blown migraine, but you still feel like you have a hangover, and it's still a little sensitive. And so I had no choice, though, man. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have. Probably if it was a regular game, chances are maybe you sit it out. But I couldn't in this case. I wouldn't have been able to forgive myself for not going back in that game. It just wouldn't have, especially if we had lost. And so it was like, hey, do it now. Just go through the pain, suck it up. You can rest tomorrow, the next day, a whole 6 months from now. But today you gotta go.
Elway was in all those Super Bowls before, lost him. He was a passing quarterback. But when you joined the team, he handed the ball off a lot more. Was it tough on him to change his style from a passing quarterback to more of handing the ball off?
I mean, I guess for anybody, I don't. John has never said this, and I've never seen him react to us running the ball like what I'm gonna say. But I'm just saying, as a competitor, as a guy who loves to compete, a Hall of Fame cat like John, I would imagine behind the scenes that, yeah, I think it's tough because I think the sign of maybe you're not the same quarterback you used to be, and that's tough for anybody, any of us to swallow. I would feel the same way if the roles were reversed. If we were a running team and then we get a quarterback and we start to throw it, I would feel the same way. So, yeah, but I guess what he realized and what was cool was it wasn't like we were running the ball and we weren't successful. So it wasn't like we were just running the ball a lot and or he was not getting a chance to throw the ball. John threw the ball still a lot because we would still have game plans where, hey, we can't run the ball against this team, not like we want to. And so it was important for John to still be able to throw the ball because we needed that to keep them from putting extra defenders in the box, or just doing things and slowing down a run game. So the balance we had with Denver was perfect. To have John who can, if you put too many people up there, he's going to kill you throwing the ball. So, like I said, I don't know if he's ever said it publicly, but I just know that if it was me and everything, and we were used to be we were a running team, and all of a sudden we started to change to be a passing team. Yeah, probably deep down inside it kind of hurts you because you want to be the person that the team relies on to be that. But I think the way I look at it is we didn't take anything from John. We added something to what he was doing, which allowed us to be a better team. That's the way I see it.
The next year you got over 2,000 yards. Did you ever think during that season, I want to break Eric's record? And when you didn't break it, was that tough on you?
No, I actually could have broken his record, man. My thing, I didn't care about records at that time. I only cared about one thing, and that was if we were winning games and if we were in the playoffs and if we were playing for that trophy. That's the only thing I cared about. I cared less about like I said, 2,000-yard seasons and whatnot. But when I say that now, in retrospect, that year, yeah, I wonder now because I had missed a few games because I sat out. And this shows you why I didn't care because there was 2 games against Philadelphia, against Dallas, and I guess a few other games where they asked me if I wanted to stay in, and I got pulled at halftime against Philadelphia. I got pulled, I believe, early in the third against Dallas, and I think both of those games I had over 160 yards rushing. So no, I didn't care about that. I just wanted to be as healthy as possible so that we can, I can help this team win championships. That's really all I cared about.
Then you play the Falcons in the Super Bowl. Do you think going into that game, you know what? We beat the Packers last year. You know what? This game should be easy for us because, again, we're the dominant team in the NFL right now.
Yeah. We felt pretty confident about Atlanta, and we were probably a little bit more concerned if Minnesota had made it, and So we were watching that game as we were preparing to play the Jets. And when Minnesota lost, man, we got pretty excited in the locker room. Everybody was like, "Oh, Minnesota lost, man! Wow!" Like so we're thinking this is going to be an easy championship. Well, somebody forgot to tell us we got a game to play, and the Jets came in there and we were down 10-0, I believe, early in the third quarter. And so we woke up and obviously came back and won that game. But yeah, when we played Atlanta, I think we just matched up well against them, and it was kind of we felt like Green Bay did the year before, and knowing how the media was pumping us up, we had to really check our thinking to say, hey, you guys know what happened last year when Green Bay was favored by double digits, and now we're being favored. We've got to make sure we stay focused, man, and don't believe that. We know we're good, but we got to make sure we don't buy into all that stuff and think we're just going to show up and win this game against Atlanta. So we played a hell of a game. So I was proud of us. We went there and played a good game.
You couldn't convince Elway to come back for a third?
Man, we tried, but what people don't realize, he was beat up, man. For John he missed a lot of practice time. He was constantly in rehab. He was icing shoulders, knees. He gave us all he can give us, and we appreciate him giving us that. But yeah, man, we were trying to do everything. I was hoping that Mike would say, "Hey, John, just sit out training camp, relax. We'll see you early, September. You just played regular season games. Give him something." But we needed to have him back, and because at least if we had lost, then But it's hard when someone walks out after you win 2, and you don't really give yourself a chance to win 3 in a row. You got to go for it. But I understand. We understood his decision. Didn't like it, but we had to go forward. And obviously, things didn't turn out too well after that. It was that flame burned out real quick.
Yeah, the next season you had an injury and you were never the same after that. It seemed like the next 2-3 years, every time you got back in the field, you got re-injured.
Yeah, that was it. That was the reality. I think I played 5 games one season, 2 games one season. I think 7 in my last year. Or it was 4. Yeah, it wasn't that many games. So, and it was a struggle. It was just constantly trying to fight injury, and I had never regained my just health. It's hard to be an elite athlete when you're fighting injuries and just trying to become a healthy player, let alone a player who was trained to play on a different level. So it was mentally draining more than anything. So that was rough.
How did the Mile High Salute start?
It started in '90s, in training camp. When we came back, we had lost to Jacksonville the year before, so it came back, and I just was trying to think of something to where we have to have a mentality for this year, and the mentality that I was looking for was a mentality of a soldier, and this was to the running back in particular. So we're saying, hey guys, when we're on this field, man, we have to adopt a mentality that is nasty, that is physical, that is, you got determination, you got to do all this stuff, man. And so I'm thinking about who represents that. I'm like, it's easy. If you're a soldier, man, you got to have a mentality that is, it's not like football where you go play football and then you walk off the field and when you're gonna probably walk off the field. Soldiers go out there, they put their lives on the line. So out of respect, I started saying, hey man, this is what we're gonna do. When we score, we're gonna salute each other. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna, that's our Mile High salute to each other, man, out of respect and as soldiers. And did it in the preseason. Started doing it during the season, and it just took off. And it just became everybody on the team started to do it. So that's kind of how it started.
Being that you only had 4 full seasons in the NFL, did you ever think there was a shot you get in the Hall of Fame, or did you think your career was too short?
Well, from what everybody was saying, they were saying it was too short. And for a while, when I came out, and then I made the semifinalist list. I made that list, I guess, the first year. I had actually got excited, because I was thinking, all right, maybe, maybe there's a chance here. And you come back year two, you make it again, you get excited again. So you feel like, okay, maybe there's people talking about it, but then there wouldn't be a whole lot of conversations about it. I see myself on the list, and when I would watch programming or watch TV, sports shows, people would talk about everybody else on the list except me. They might ask somebody, who on this list who you think deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and no one would say me. So, well, maybe I guess I'm not gonna make it. And I'm at the NFL Network, so I see it, and we have to talk about it. And everybody would be talking about somebody who had been passed over for so many years, or some player who had played in the 60s or 70s. And then as we were going through the process, about year 7, I had just felt like maybe this is where I'm going to be all the time. Maybe I'll just make the list of semifinalists, and that's about it. So that was kind of, not that I was okay with it, but I was like, okay, that's where they're going to put me, and you can't do anything about it. You can't go play anymore. You can't control it. So I try not to worry about it. But then 3 years ago, when they called me and told me that I had advanced from the semifinalist list to the finals list, man, I was fired up. I was driving with my wife in the car, and I had pulled over, and I was like, I said, you won't believe what happened. She's like, what? I said, man, I just made the semifinalists at the Hall of Fame, and we screamed and hugged each other on the side of the road, and just it was big, man. And then that kind of got me rejuvenated, man. That kind of got me like, wait, maybe there's something to it. And so, in the last 3 years, it just started to see like there was more momentum behind it. More people were talking about it. When I would watch a show, I would see certain guys who didn't basically endorse me early. I sort of changed their opinions about it, and so that was great to see that, man. That was a good feeling to see people who stopped looking at the length of the career and started to look at the substance of what happened. And I can't control whether I played 7 or 20 years. I can't control that. The one thing I can control is when I played, the effort I gave, and I think you can look at that and say, damn, when he played, man, this dude, he gave it his all. His teammates would say, man, TD put everything. TD played his ass off when he played, and to me, that's the biggest compliment you can get from anybody, to know that I got your back. No matter what it is, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna be there. And so, and that was great to see that the selection committee looked at that, and probably looked at, I guess if you look at my career, if you were to throw stats at somebody and not tell them how long I played, I think you might say, hey, okay, that guy, that should be Hall of Fame worthy. If you look at all the different things that I was able to get, when I played. So it's a tough process, and it should be tough because it's more rewarding when it happens.
How did it feel when you got the knock on the door from Dave Baker that you got in?
Man, I had so many emotions running through my head. It's just like you're relieved, you're excited, you got jubilation, man. You just, like, your mind is flipping the channel on what this all means. You're thinking about things that you don't have to say anymore. You're like, thank God. You're thinking about the people that you've seen with these gold jackets on, and you're thinking now you're one of them. It's just a lot that's happening, and it's more. I talk about it, I'm smiling right now. Like, I can't take it off my face, and there's periods where I go through my day, and I'll stop and I'll see that sign, I'll see the little emblem, and I'm like, I see the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and part of it, you still don't believe it. I still don't believe it until maybe obviously when the enshrinement happens in that week, that's going to put it more in perspective. But right now, you still are having a hard time believing it, that it's actually happened. And as we get closer, it's getting more and more real, but there still are moments where I have to pause and say, man, and I'll just laugh. I'll just start breaking out laughing out loud. I'm like, man, it's here. So it's just pure joy, man. It's great.
Like Deacon Jones said, it's the one team that you're a part of that you can't be cut from.
That is true. You can't be cut from this one. That's fantastic. I look forward to that. I look forward to getting to know the guys more, getting to know the guys better, getting to know more of the guys. Obviously I don't know all the guys that are Hall of Famers, but I look forward to being part of that locker room, that locker room, if you will, and get the inside stories, and I can't wait for that, man. That's going to be fun.